Good day, I am Margarette Garpida from grade 10 to St. Lucille, and today I'm going to present to you my science project under Miss Mercy Grace Lamar Miguel. Human body is composed of different organ systems that work together in order for our body to function well throughout a daily basis. And one of the systems of our body is what we call the nervous system. So the nervous system has two divisions, which is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So first, let's have a brief discussion about the two divisions. The peripheral nervous system, first, it consists of the nerves that branch out from the brain and the spinal cord. This bundle of nerves serves as a communication network from the CNS, or what we call the central nervous system, and the other parts of our body. So this plays an important role in transmission of impulses, reactions, signals, and etc. So next up is the central nervous system. The central nervous system, on the other hand, consists of the brain and the spinal cord. This is referred to as central because it combines all the information from our entire body and coordinates the activity across the whole organism. So, bago tayo mag-proceed sa main discussion natin ngayon, which is the human brain, I would like to ask you several questions para mas lalo tayong ma-enlighten sa kung bakit napaka-importante ng brain para sa atin. So, nagtataka ka ba kung bakit kumukurap ang iyong mga mata? Kung bakit naluluha at nasasaktan ka kapag nakikita mo siyang may iba? At bakit ka nakokonsensya kapag babalik siya? Bakit? So, keeping aside, meron pang ibang questions na why do we still remember our passwords, address, and even the names of our families and friends. So, there's only one answer for these questions, which is because a human has a brain. So, the brain is the control center of our body. It is the organ that is being protected by the cranium, or what we call the skull, that helps in maintaining our body temperature, regulating our blood pressure, maintaining our homeostasis, and releasing the hormones that is needed by specific parts of our body. So first, I have this model, the model of a human brain, kung saan madidiscuss natin yung three major parts ng ating brain, which is the cerebellum, the cerebrum, and the brainstem. So first, discuss natin yung cerebrum. So the cerebrum is the uppermost layer part of the brain. It consists of four main lobes, which is the frontal lobe, temporal lobe, parietal lobe, and the occipital lobe. So let's discuss this in order to know its functions. So first is what we call the frontal lobe. So kapag means of frontal lobe, from the word frontal, sa pinakaharap, front. This is the frontal lobe. This is known to be the control panel of our personality and our ability to communicate. So next up is the temporal lobe, which is this green part. The temporal lobe is the part of the brain that is the nearest to our ear. Kung saan, ibig sabihin nun, it also plays a very important role sa paggamit natin ng auditory information. It processes the auditory information and enhances our memory skills. This is primarily responsible for creating and preserving the long-term memory in our consciousness. Next up is the occipital lobe. The occipital lobe is located at the back of the brain, which is this orange part, kung saan konektado ito sa ating mata. So the occipital lobe, it is the visual processing center of the human brain, kung saan once na na-damage ang occipital lobe, magkakaroon ito ng epekto sa ating mga mata. There is a possibility na maka-experience tayo ng eye impairments or eye defects. So last but not the least is the what we call the parietal lobe, which is this blue part. Kung saan ang parietal lobe naman, ito yung functioning of our sensory organs or what we call the sensory information center. Kasi dito dumadaan yung mga signals kung paano natin nafe-feel, kung ano yung nafe-feel natin, kung ano yung nalalasahan natin, kung anong temperature, and so on. So, that's the four main lobes that the cerebrum contains. Next up is the, what we call the cerebellum, which is here under the brain. So, that's what we call the cerebellum, the red part, kung saan ito naman yung nagfa-function para sa paggalaw natin. It is for the movements, voluntary movements. Ito yung para sa voluntary movements natin, especially sa eyes and sa face movements. So, kung paano gumagalaw yung mukha ko ngayon, kung paano tumataas yung kilay ko, kung paano kumukurap yung mga mata ko, kung paano ako nagsasalita ngayon, it is because of the cerebellum. Next is the brainstem. The brainstem naman, kung ang cerebellum nagpa-function siya para sa voluntary movements ng tao, ito namang brainstem is for involuntary movements. So, what is involuntary movements? So, ito yung pagtibok ng puso natin, ito yung paghinga natin, yung pag-vomit or pagsusuka, pagbahing or pag-sneeze, and so on. So, that is the three major parts of the brain. So, now let's proceed with the inner parts of the brain, kung saan matatalakay natin is yung three regions of the human brain. The brain has three regions, kung saan ito yung forebrain, yung midbrain, and the hindbrain. So, matatalakay natin yan later on, but first we're going to discuss about the hindbrain. So, the hindbrain is located at the lower part of the brain, kung saan it contains the cerebellum and the brainstem. So, di ba na-discuss na natin kanina yung dalawang yon. So, ngayon, i-discuss naman natin is about types of brainstem. So, here is the two types of brainstem, which is the pons and the medulla oblongata. So, the pons, here is the pon, kung saan nagfa-function siya as a pathway ng cerebellum at ng tinatawag nating medulla oblongata. Kasi ang medulla oblongata, ito talaga yung nagfa-function para dun sa involuntary movements ng ating katawan. Kasi without it, paano makakatibok yung puso natin, paano tayo makakahinga habang natutulog o hindi. So, by this, it serves as this pon, it serves as a pathway para magkaroon ng connection towards the voluntary and involuntary movements. So, kung mapapansin nyo, meron ding green line dyan, here, this part, which is the reticulated activating system. So, ito namang reticulated activating system, it is for the passageway ng mga sensory organs. So, from the spinal cord, kung saan nagsisend siya ng signal. So, for example, nakahawak ka ng mainit. Sa mabilis na pamamaraan, yung init na yun dadaan yan patungo sa spinal cord mo, and then patungo sa reticulated activating system, kung saan ito yung namamahala ng sensory natin, ng sensory organs natin, patungo sa midbrain, kung saan ito yung patungo sa midbrain, then patungo sa thalamus, and then patungo sa tinatawag nating cerebral cortex. So, ang thalamus, ito yung nagsisend ng neural signals sa cerebral cortex. Kung saan ang cerebral cortex natin kasi is located at the frontal lobe of the cerebrum, which is, tulad ng sinabi ko kanina, it is about the language, it is about the judgments, reasoning. So, ito yung magsisend ng signals dito sa cerebral cortex na once na makapunta na yung signal na yan sa cerebral cortex, magbibigay yun ng action sa atin para ilayo yung kamay natin sa nakawakan nating mainit. So, next is what we call the cerebrum. We should still have a little discussion about it kasi bukod sa may 4 main lobes siya, meron pa siyang dalawang divisions, which is the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. So this left and right hemisphere is being connected by what we call the callosum commissure ng brain natin na nagdudugtong sa right and left ng cerebrum natin. And last but not the least is we have the hypothalamus, which is this green part. This is our last part. Kung saan ang hypothalamus naman, it is responsible for the expressing emotions. Ito talaga, ito yung function niya. It is because that the hypothalamus links the whole nervous system, tinatawag nating endocrine system. So what is endocrine system? So a brief definition about it. It is the system containing hormones. It is responsible for the hormones. Kung saan. So for example, when a person is in love, so ang tao na in love yan because of a hormone or what we call the happy hormone, which is that dopamine, kung saan pupunta yan dito sa pituitary gland patungo sa endocrine system. And doon na natin mafe-feel na yung kilig, yung excitement, it is because of the hypothalamus. So instead of saying na, I love you from the bottom of my heart, edi mas magandang sabihin, I love you from the bottom of my hypothalamus.